My mother-in-law added her name to my house deed, so I sold the house and gave her $100. The deed nobody agreed to. The letter looked boring enough. Official envelope, county seal, that polite kind of paper that says, "Nothing fun ever comes inside me." I only opened it because my husband, Tyler, had already tossed it onto the counter like junk mail. 2 sips of coffee later, I scanned the first line and froze halfway through. Then I reread it. And again. My voice went high and thin like a kettle whistle. "Tyler, why is your mother's name on our house deed?" He blinked, mid-cereal bite. "What?" I slapped the paper down between the coffee cups. "Perfect. Just what I needed. A new roommate who doesn't pay rent. Your mother." For a second, silence. Then he laughed, nervous. "That's, a mistake, right? Like a clerical thing." "Right," I said. "A tiny bureaucratic accident that accidentally gives your mother partial ownership of our house." Flashback 6 months earlier, we were still buzzing with that first home smell. Fresh paint, way too much IKEA furniture, and a mortgage payment that screamed adulthood louder than I ever wanted. Tyler kept saying, "This place is ours," with that big proud grin. And then, like clockwork, his mom Nancy appeared with her trademark line, "Let me help." Nancy's version of help meant hovering, questioning, and occasionally rearranging furniture she didn't buy. "I just think the couch feels happier on the other wall," she'd chirp. She said helping, but she meant controlling. We loved her in small, non-daily doses. Still, she was family, and she'd loaned us some money for the down payment, which gave her all the confidence of a bored chairwoman. We deflect politely, laugh behind closed doors, and remind ourselves she meant well. That morning, standing in our kitchen, staring at the paper with her name nested right beside ours, meant well, felt like a bad joke. My stomach sank straight to the tile. Tyler turned the pages, muttering, "This says she's a co-owner. Joint tenancy? That can't be right. How would that even happen?" I squeezed my temples. "Do you remember her refinance idea?" He groaned. "Oh no." "Yeah, the refinance." Cue flashback number 2, captured in glorious kitchen table panic lighting. Nancy had shown up one Saturday waving a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. "Sweethearts, you're paying way too much interest. I know a guy. He's a real expert. He refinanced my friend's niece's house and saved her a fortune." Tyler looked wary. I looked at the potential lower payment and thought, why not? She poured us coffee, uncapped pens, and spread forms like a magician. The whole time, she smiled that smile that makes you doubt your own instincts. Mountains of paper. Sign here, initial there. That's just bank legalese, dear. We signed like obedient adults trying to look professional. I remember joking, "If I die, promise me my signature still looks this good." Nancy had laughed. In hindsight, that should have been my first clue she was up to something. Now, back in real time, I felt my chest flush hot. We literally handed her our signatures on a silver platter. Tyler kept shaking his head as if motion alone could erase ink. She must have slipped a deed transfer in there. My God. I tried to laugh. It came out half hysterical. She's technically my new roommate. Should I charge Act 1, how we got played? Do we make her pay for utilities, or do we just let her redecorate in rent credit? Tyler dropped into a chair. We trusted her. We actually signed whatever she put in front of us. "Oh, I know," I said. "Because family." I glared at the letter like it might apologize. So I guess it's time to rewind and appreciate the craftsmanship behind this masterpiece of deception. Let's back up to that Saturday, the day we got played like toddlers with fake credit cards. Nancy arrived wearing what she called her business blouse, which basically meant the same floral shirt she wore for every church fundraiser, but with pearls. She was humming, cheerful, pretending not to notice my guard was already up. Tyler had just finished mowing the lawn. I was painting trim. Life was boring in the best possible way. Then she pulled up with a binder and the promise of big savings. "It's just a quick refinance," she said, bubbling with false modesty. "You two anointed homeowners shouldn't be overpaying. I have a guy who works miracles with interest rates. You'll thank me later. Her guy ended up being someone she knew through 3 layers, a friend of a niece. That alone should have stopped us, but the thought of trimming a few hundred off the mortgage lured us straight in. Plus, she made it sound so convenient. No office meetings, no hassle, just sign at home. He's letting you pre-sign. Isn't that considerate? Tyler frowned at the mountain of papers. Shouldn't we read all this? Nancy gave this sweet, dismissive giggle. Oh, it's boilerplate. Everything's online these days, dear. You'd need a law degree to understand half of it, so trust me, it's fine. And because she'd helped with our down payment and made herself the family finance oracle, we convinced ourselves she must know what she was talking about. I remember sitting at that kitchen table surrounded by pages. She kept the rhythm quick. Flip, sign, flip, initial, and sprinkled compliments like confetti. You guys are so responsible. I'm proud of you both. This will really help you start your family. The flattery kept us signing. At one point, Tyler said, "What's this extra form?" She leaned over, tapping near the bottom corner, smiling. That? Oh, it's just confirmation that I'm the contact person for the refinance. Nothing binding. Banks love a backup contact. Tyler hesitated, pen floating in midair. She sighed dramatically. Sweetheart, do you know how many hours I put into finding this deal? If you don't want to save money, that's fine. I just thought, since you're starting out, you could use someone to vouch for you. But your father and I never had this kind of help when we were young. Classic guilt. The full maternal orchestra. Tyler wilted right on cue. I rolled my eyes, which somehow got translated as silent approval. He signed. I initialed beside him in solidarity. Just like that, we handed her the paper equivalent of a key to our front door. She gathered the stack, cheerfully slid them into her binder, and promised to drop them off first thing Monday. Before she left, she kissed us both on the head like some patron saint of low interest. I didn't see the sly curve at the corner of her mouth until much later in memory replay. My brain apparently added it once I knew what she'd done. For weeks afterward, she bragged to anyone who'd listen that she'd helped the kids make a smart financial move. We just nodded along, grateful the process was done. The new mortgage payment looked about the same, but she said the savings would come later with adjustments. And somehow we believed her again. I think about that a lot. The tiny choices that seem harmless until they connect into one giant oh no moment. We weren't naive. We were comfortable. And comfort is how sabotage sneaks in wearing a smile. Flash forward a month after the paperwork. Nancy started acting like an unofficial inspector. I just dropped by to make sure the insurance coverage was updated, she said. Oh, and have you scheduled the HVAC maintenance? Because technically that affects our property value. Tyler laughed then. I remember catching his eye, both of us brushing it off as one of her clumsy wording moments. But inside, something pinched. Every time she visited, she found a reason to remind us of her help. She'd say things like, "Don't forget to keep receipts. If I ever need them for the refinance." Oops, you know what I mean. Then she'd change the subject. We learned to ignore it the way you ignore a car alarm at 3 a.m. Low-grade irritation that becomes background noise. The clues had been everywhere, like a giant neon sign only visible in hindsight. She even intercepted a letter once, said it was just from the bank, and she'd already confirmed everything. I thanked her. I actually thanked her for flat-out messing with our mail. Looking back, Tyler says it's like we both had selective blindness. Maybe it's hard to suspect someone when the weapon they're using is affection. When we finally learned she'd gone beyond meddling to forgery, everything from that day clicked together like a bad flashback montage. Her rush, her insistence, the extra sheet she flipped over so we couldn't read the top line. I can still hear her humming while we signed, cheerful and off-key. Tyler once told me his mom loves puzzles because she's good at seeing the whole picture. I guess that included the picture of our house with her name under the title. After the refinance, she stopped dropping random passive-aggressive hints about rent or chores. Instead, she acted settled, comfortable in a way that didn't match her usual nosiness. I chalked it up to relief. Turns out it was satisfaction. Ownership satisfaction. Our friends joked that at least she couldn't move in with us because there wasn't enough space. Irony aged like fine wine on that one. At one barbecue, a neighbor asked how the refinance process went, and Nancy practically glowed. "Oh, I took care of most of it for them. It's our home after all." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she'd misspoken. Tyler nudged her playfully and said, "Mom, it's ours." She smiled, almost pitying, and said, "Of course, dear." Then she walked away humming that same off-key tune. If this were a movie, that would have been the eerie soundtrack cue warning the audience. Instead, we just grabbed another burger and pretended her weirdness was normal. Those words, "It's our home after all," would echo 6 months later when we opened that county letter. She had planted her flag right in our living room. So yes, we absolutely got played. Neatly, efficiently, and with paperwork so clean it squeaked. Tyler and I sat in silence after I finished telling the story aloud, both of us stewing in equal parts shame and disbelief. Finally, he said, "We need to do something. We can't let her get away with this." I tapped the edge of the envelope, a slow grin forming despite my stomach's knots. "Oh, we won't. But first, we're getting a lawyer." Because apparently reading fine print is the new family sport. He actually laughed, though it sounded like a man preparing for battle. And under that laughter, my sarcasm hardened into resolve. We thought the hard part of buying a house was moving in. Turns out, the hardest part was realizing we'd just given her the keys, with our own signatures. Act 2, the calm before the audit. For a while, we convinced ourselves things were back to normal, or our version of normal, which meant weekend projects, arguments about paint colors, and Nancy's frequent just-checking-in visits. She had the timing of a sitcom character who materialized every time we were about to relax. Month 1 after the refinance, she popped by to check the gutters. No appointment, no heads up, just appeared with a stepladder and a pastry box. "You kids aren't maintaining drainage properly," she said, already halfway up the ladder. Tyler eventually had to yell, "Mom, it's fine," while she pretended she couldn't hear over her own commentary. Month 2, she showed up with a clipboard. "You really should change your homeowner's insurance provider," she said. I made a few calls on our behalf. The R made my molars grind. Tyler asked what company she'd contacted. She smiled sweetly. "You'll see when the paperwork arrives." The paperwork never did, but a small part of me wondered if that was because she intercepted it. I called the post office to check our forwarding status. Everything seemed fine. Still, once in a while, random envelopes looked like they'd been opened and resealed. I told myself I was being paranoid. Meanwhile, she started dropping hints about lawn care invoices, utility bills, even property taxes. "Remember," she'd say, "these expenses affect everyone's equity." I'd smile tight and respond, "Noted." Then I'd stomp upstairs and whisper to Tyler, "When did our marriage turn into a condo co-op?" To stay sane, I threw myself into fixing little things. The leaky faucet, that squeaky step near the kitchen, and started joking that if Nancy wanted to act like a partner, maybe she should cover the plumbing costs. Tyler found it funny at first, until one day she left a $50 check on the counter with a note for maintenance. I almost choked on my coffee. We didn't cash it, obviously, but it sat there for weeks like a paper flag of ownership. Every time I passed it, my stomach flipped. You know that feeling when someone overstays their welcome so long, you start wondering if you're the guest instead? That was me, living in my own house. By month 3, small oddities started piling up. A duplicate electric bill arrived, addressed to both of us, and to Nancy. Her name was squeezed in the corner like the universe was trying to tip us off. Tyler called the company and they said, "We just updated the account information per submitted documents." Documents we'd never seen. "Maybe it's part of the refinance updates," I suggested weakly. He nodded, half believing it, because believing his mom could cross that line felt unthinkable. We tried to laugh it off over dinner. "At least she hasn't shown up with a moving van yet," I joked. Tyler grimaced. "Don't give her ideas." Still, life went on. Birthday dinners, work deadlines, neighborhood gossip. We convinced ourselves the storm had passed. We even hosted a game night where Nancy behaved like a parody of domestic bliss, handing out cheese platters and bragging to my friends. These two were handling the homeowner life so maturely. I smiled for the camera while fantasizing about bubble wrap soundproofing for my sanity, but subtle cracks were forming. A home insurance letter appeared with her listed as an interested party. Tyler called the agent. "Oh, yes," the agent said cheerfully. "Your co-owner requested that update." We both stared at the phone as if it had grown horns. He covered quickly. Right. Thanks." Then he hung up and whispered, "Co-owner?" We didn't panic yet, though. Humans are masters at denial when the alternative is panic. We told ourselves it was another clerical error, the universe's little prank. I even made sarcastic predictions. Next month, maybe she'll register herself as an emergency contact for our Netflix account. Nancy, unaware or perfectly aware, continued her unscheduled inspections. She'd stroll in with casserole dishes, comment on our curtains, and casually drop lines like, "We might need to prune that tree, wouldn't want property damage." I swear she hit that pronoun like a hammer. One Saturday, she knocked while we were mid-argument about backsplash colors. Without waiting, she entered and said, "I saw the trash cans were full." I deadpanned, "Congratulations on noticing gravity." Tyler gave me the look, half plea, half warning, but the way she smiled told me she liked pushing that boundary. I started venting to my friend Lena. Either my mother-in-law has boundary issues or she's auditioning for Big Brother. Lena laughed and said, maybe she planted hidden cameras. We laughed too, but my brain logged the idea as not impossible. By the 5th month, things quieted. Nancy traveled for a few weeks to visit relatives. The quiet was heavenly. No random knocks. No guidelines on hedge trimming. I could almost believe peace had returned. Tyler relaxed. We stopped expecting daily ambushes. Then, out of nowhere, we noticed our tax escrow statement hadn't arrived when it should have. Tyler called the lender. They mailed a copy. It arrived 3 days later, addressed to Tyler, me, and Nancy Howard, neatly typed like it belonged there. The envelope might as well have exploded glitter labeled plot twist. I stood there staring at her name like it was graffiti on sacred ground. Why is she on the tax statement? Tyler scrolled through his phone, pacing. Probably because of that refinance paperwork, the contact forms. His tone wasn't confident. It was shaky. We called the county office. The woman on the line asked for our parcel number, typed a few keys, and then casually said, "Owners, Tyler Howard, my full name, and Nancy Howard." I swear the room tilted. My breath left in one harsh laugh. "Sorry, could you repeat that?" She did. 3 names. Listed crystal clear. Ownership confirmed. She might as well have said, "Congratulations, your meddling relative is now your landlord." Tyler sank into a chair, hand on head. This can't be real. I paced circles around the dining table. No, it's surreal, and I hate the sequel. After we hung up, we sat in silence. I made a joke I didn't feel just to keep from screaming. She treated the front door like a revolving one, but apparently she thought the deed needed revolving too. Tyler exhaled. "We'll fix it. It's paperwork. It has to be fixable." "Sure," I said, like toothpaste back into the tube. That night, we barely slept. Every creak sounded personal. I kept replaying her words, our home, our equity, our investment. It wasn't accidental. It was calculated from day one. The next morning, I checked the deed records online. There it was again, her name, proudly printed in legal type, right beside ours. My coffee went cold in my hand. When Tyler joined me, I turned the laptop toward him. He went pale. Holy, how did she even? "She must have slipped an ownership form in that refinance packet," I whispered. The signature lines matched. The paperwork looked uniform. She doctored it. The wave of disbelief hit, followed quickly by anger. I laughed first, short, sharp, manic. We thought she was helping shorten our loan. Turns out, she was shortening our sanity. Tyler rubbed his temples. "Can we undo it?" "We'll find out," I said, voice too calm. "But first, she's going to learn what happens when you play Monopoly with real property." Then I reached for my phone. "We're calling a lawyer." He nodded slowly. "Do you even know one?" "No," I said, "but I'm about to learn more about property law than a first-year paralegal. Congratulations to me." Sarcasm was keeping me from combusting. Because underneath it, the truth finally settled in. The woman who gifted us help had legally tied herself to our home like a bad tattoo. I closed the laptop, looked around, and whispered, she wanted ownership? Fine. She just bought herself the consequences. And that's when we realized our next project wasn't home improvement. It was damage control. Act 3, Discovery Day. I wish I could say the discovery moment was cinematic, dramatic music, slow zoom, maybe a lightning flash through the window. Nope. It was Tuesday morning, fluorescent light, me in pajamas, staring at the county record on my laptop while my coffee went from warm to forgotten. Tyler came in, hair a mess, holding his toothbrush like a weapon. You called the lawyer yet? Yep. Left a message. How's your dental defense strategy? I said because apparently my response to panic was sarcasm. He didn't even smile. He leaned over my shoulder at the glowing screen and said quietly, so it's real. Oh, it's real. I jabbed the monitor. Look, right there, Nancy Howard, co-owner. That's not even a typo. That's a full-fledged line of betrayal. He said, maybe it's some temporary placeholder. Maybe the refinance got messy. Tyler, we refinanced 6 months ago. If temporary means half a year of delusion, sure. I sighed, running my hands through my hair. She really did it. She outed herself. He looked past me to the living room. She forged a deed. That's fraud. That's serious. I just can't believe she... I cut him off with a dry laugh. Can't you, though? Remember the backup contact line? That wasn't contact information. That was an application for house domination. For a long minute, neither of us spoke. The fridge hummed. My pulse hummed louder. Finally, I whispered, do we call her? Tyler's face hardened. Not yet. We get proof. Real proof. Screenshots, official copies, everything. My inner drama queen wanted to scream that she'd stolen my house. Instead, I muttered, great, let's gather evidence, because apparently our family needs a legal file now. We printed copies of the deed, the refinance paperwork we still had, and spread them across the dining table like a crime board. Each page looked innocent until you noticed the tiny section near the end. The one I vaguely remembered signing with a flourish because Nancy was handing me cookies at the same time. There it was, a quitclaim deed transfer. My signature, Tyler's signature, and hers neatly squeezed at the bottom. The document claimed she was added as a co-owner for estate simplification. I barked a laugh. Estate simplification? She simplified it by stealing it. Tyler dropped into a chair with a groan. So, we signed our own betrayal. I call it performance art, I said. The medium is humiliation. He rubbed his temples. I should have known. She was too cheerful after that meeting. She kept saying, everything's set now, remember? Oh, I remember. My throat tightened. And I thought she meant the loan approval, not her evil empire paperwork. He gave me a look, half guilt, half fury. She's my mom. Who does that to their kids? She does. She weaponizes kindness. Right then, I remembered something weird. Back when we signed those papers, she'd said, just your initials are fine, the big signatures come later. And like fools, we complied. My stomach twisted. She'd already planned it. Okay, Tyler said, voice flattening. So what do we do now? I took a deep breath. We fix it legally, step by step. We don't confront her blindly. We talk to a lawyer before she gets wind of this. Last thing we need is her calling dibs on the garage. He managed a grim smile. You sound terrifying. I like it. Good. Terrified and terrifying. New motto. While he gathered the printed pages, I phoned the lawyer's office again. The receptionist said the earliest appointment was Friday. I hung up and muttered, for days. That's 4 days of pretending not to murder someone. Tyler said, we can handle 4 days. Speak for yourself. I burned toast 5 minutes ago because I was imagining setting legal papers on fire. He half laughed, half winced. You think she knew exactly what she was doing? Completely. Her signature's too neat for an accident. She writes like a teacher grading her own students. Later that afternoon, I couldn't stop replaying the night she brought over the Refinance folder. My memory felt like a bad rerun with new subtitles. In slow motion, I saw her slipping one extra sheet under the stack. I even remembered her saying, "Don't worry, it's just part of the form." She'd said it with that sing-song certainty people use right before a con. That flashback burned through my brain while I did dishes. The clink of plates matched the rhythm of my thoughts. She knew. She knew. Tyler came up behind me and put a hand on my shoulder. "We'll get through this." I snorted. "Sure, after we unadopt your mother." He tried not to smile. "You always joke when you're panicking." Better than crying. But later that night, when the house was quiet, I did cry. Quietly, ugly, into my pillow. Not because of money or property, but because betrayal feels radioactive. It sticks under your skin. 2 days later, she called, like the universe wanted to test my self-control. I put her on speaker. "Sweetheart," Nancy chirped, "I noticed an error in the insurance documents. Did you get the updated policy? You might see my name included accidentally." "Don't worry, I'll handle it." Tyler's jaw visibly clenched. "Accidentally?" he mouthed. I said, keeping my voice neutral, "Oh, we saw. Thanks, we'll handle it from here." She hesitated. "I'm part of the coverage now. It's simpler this way." "It's simpler," I echoed, forcing a smile she couldn't see. "For state purposes, right?" Her cheerful tone flickered. "Well, yes, exactly. You understand." "Oh," I said lightly, "I understand perfectly." And I hung up. The silence afterward was heavy. Tyler exhaled hard. "She doesn't even hide it. She thinks she's untouchable," I said. "Let's prove her wrong." The next morning, we drove to the county office to get certified copies of the deed. The clerk printed them, stapled them, and slid them across the counter like she was handing us a time bomb. "Here you go, owners of record." Seeing her name in official ink made my stomach flip. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the paperwork gravity of it. You can't fight something that has a file number without strategy. Outside, sunlight felt fake. Tyler said, "We're really doing this." "Yep. Lawyer on Friday. Until then, act normal." "Normal?" he repeated. "Define normal when your mom technically owns a corner of your living room." I shrugged. "Set boundaries in square footage? We'll say she can have the 2 feet under that one chair." He laughed despite himself. "You're impossible." Correction, I'm motivated. That night, we organized every document, every note, every post-it. Tyler labeled a folder, "Evidence of Maternal Treason." I added glitter pen stars for emphasis. We spent hours at the computer researching property law, co-ownership disputes, fraud cases. My search history looked like a rookie detective's meltdown. Can you sell house without co-owner? Remove narcissist from deed? Revenge stories involving escrow. At midnight, Tyler leaned back. "You think the lawyer will tell us to sue?" "Maybe. Or maybe we'll find a faster way." My voice grew sharper. "If she wants to play homeowner, let's make her pay homeowner taxes, insurance, and every ugly fee that comes with it. Maybe ownership will lose its charm." He looked at me like he was meeting a new version of me. "Remind me never to cross you." Good plan. The emotional fog started clearing. Beneath it sat clarity, a crisp satisfaction that she'd dug her own trap. We just had to guide her into it. Before we went to bed, Tyler asked quietly, "Are you okay?" I smiled thinly. "No, but I'm inspired." He reached for my hand. "We'll fix it together." In that moment, the frustration hardened into unity. It wasn't husband versus wife anymore, it was us versus scheming mom. And weirdly, that felt kind of romantic. The next morning, I taped the deed copy to the fridge under a magnet shaped like a cartoon cat. It was an act of spiteful decoration. If she wanted her name on our house, she could stare at it every time we opened the fridge, when we sold it out from under her. I poured fresh coffee, looked at Tyler, and said evenly, she wanted ownership? She just signed up for consequences. He raised his mug. To consequences. And somewhere in that bitter toast, our plan for revenge started to take shape. Act 4, Lawyer Up. Friday arrived crawling slower than a DMV line. I dressed like someone about to sue a family member, a power outfit pulled from the business casual, emotionally unstable section of my closet. Tyler looked equally haunted, clutching our evidence folder like it was a newborn. We slid into the lawyer's office and instantly felt underqualified for adulthood. Our attorney, Jenna Price, was maybe 30, stylish in that I bill by the minute kind of way. She had glasses that said authority and a latte that said I haven't slept since law school. She smiled faintly. So, walk me through what your mother-in-law did. I exhaled a laugh that sounded more like a confession. Short version or a long tragedy? Start from the refinance, she said, opening a pad of paper. We unspooled the story, the fake refinance, the kitchen table signing, the discovery. Jenna's eyebrows climbed higher with every detail. By the end, she was scribbling furiously. She presented herself as an authorized party, introduced falsified documents, and added her name to your deed. That's fraud. Tyler leaned forward. Can we press charges? Yes, Jenna said, setting her pen down. But it'll take months. Family fraud cases get messy fast. You'll need to prove intent, gather witnesses, maybe testify. Honestly, she glanced at the folder. The cleaner option? Force a sale. I blinked. Sell the house? She nodded calmly. Yes. Under partition law, any co-owner can request a sale. You sell, split proceeds according to ownership shares. Done. You two keep control of the process instead of fighting her for years. Tyler frowned. But she'll get money. Won't that reward her? Jenna smiled, small and surgical. Only proportionate to her recorded share after fees and taxes. And from what you described, that share is minimal. I couldn't help it. My grin spread. So basically, we sell the house and weaponize math. Exactly. I turned to Tyler. I love this woman. Can we adopt her as my new mother-in-law? Jenna laughed. Let's stick to the legal adoption rate per hour. She flipped her notebook. Here's how it works. You list the house, disclose co-ownership to the escrow company, and I'll send official notification to your mother-in-law. Once sold, proceeds are split by deed percentage. She can't stop the sale, but she will be obligated to report her portion as income. That creates a nice, big tax bill. Tyler whistled low. So she pays for the privilege of scheming. Exactly, Jenna said. Poetic, right? I said, oh, it's art. Jenna started explaining terms: escrow release, capital gains apportionment, partition filing. I jotted notes, but halfway through my brain turned every phrase into sitcom subtitles. Subrogation rates translated to money hurty thing. Statutory notice became we legally get to smack her with paperwork. I whispered to Tyler, do you think there's a charge for emotional satisfaction? He murmured back, probably not deductible. Jenna pretended not to hear us. You can also sue for fraud later, but selling removes her leverage. Let's sell, I said instantly. Tyler blinked. That fast? She forged her way into co-ownership, I said. I consider a fire sale pretty polite. Jenna nodded approvingly. I'll draft the notification letter today. She'll have 30 days to respond. Perfect, I said. Enough time to bubble wrap my rage. Now, the awkward part, signing more papers. Jenna slid a stack in front of us. Authorizations for the sale process, attorney representation, blah blah. I laughed nervously. No offense, but I now have PTSD from signing anything thicker than a grocery list. Tyler said, can you just read every sentence aloud while I stare meaningfully? She chuckled, patient. You're not my first paperwork casualties. I'll walk you through each paragraph. It took an hour, but by the end, we'd signed with our eyes open this time. Jenna tucked the forms neatly into a folder labeled File Number 214, Partition Petition. Even the label looked vengeful. Once this hits her mailbox, Jenna said, expect fireworks. Bring marshmallows, I muttered. Tyler asked, what if she refuses to cooperate? She can't stop the sale, Jenna explained, but she can try to delay, appeal, or claim emotional distress. Those tactics usually backfire. Judges don't love self-inflicted drama. I exhaled. That's my new favorite phrase, self-inflicted drama. That's the weird part about getting legal advice. It turns emotional chaos into bullet points. Fraudulent mom? Check. Verified documents? Check. Scheduled revenge? Double check. At a nearby cafe, we decompressed over coffee. The contrast between sipping lattes and planning financial retribution felt almost indecent. Tyler stirred sugar absent-mindedly. It feels wrong to get revenge at Starbucks. Not revenge, I corrected. Justice with foam art. He laughed, then grew serious. Do you think she realizes we know? Not yet. I tapped my spoon. But soon she'll get a letter with more legal jargon than a foreign language exam. He looked at me. So after the sale, what happens with the money? We keep ours, I said. She gets her 1% after costs. Which means, my love, after agent fees, closing costs, inspection repairs, and capital gains, we're looking at what, $100 for her? Tyler stared, then burst into astonished laughter. $100. I nodded solemnly. A crisp Benjamin, a monument to greed. He lifted his cup. To poetic math. We toasted quietly. Afterward, we stopped by an office supply store because apparently revenge requires stationery. I bought binder tabs labeled evidence, expenses, and smug satisfaction. Tyler rolled his eyes. You're enjoying this a little too much. After months of chaos, I said, let me have my fun. This is self-care legal edition. At home, I drafted a fake real estate listing on my laptop just to visualize freedom. The headline, charming home with open floor plan and one unwanted owner being evicted by karma. It felt cathartic. That evening, Nancy called again, cheerful as a radio host. Hi dears. Just checking if you received the new appraisal. I might stop by, I cut in sweetly. Actually, you'll be getting a letter soon. You'll love it. Very official. She paused. Letter? From our lawyer, I said. It's about your share of the house. We're making some changes. A long beat of silence followed. Then that sugar tone returned. I don't think that's necessary. Oh, but it is. Legal necessity. You know how it is. Sweetheart, she began. I only wanted to secure the property for the family. You're misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I interrupted gently. It's just time to put everything into proper, documented order. Her voice tightened. You're overreacting. Maybe, but at least I'll be doing it with a lawyer instead of a Sharpie at my kitchen table. Click. Call ended. Tyler whistled softly. He just declared war in the calmest voice imaginable. Politeness is my weapon now. For the next week, peace reigned, uneasy, quiet peace. Then an envelope from her arrived, not to us but to Jenna's office, a rambling, indignant response claiming she only sought to protect family investment. Jenna forwarded a copy with a note, classic defensive play. Proceed as planned. Proceed we did. House cleaned, documents filed, realtor scheduled. It was oddly empowering, turning a disaster into a manual task list. Each checkmark whispered, take that. One night over dinner, Tyler said, I almost feel bad. Almost? I asked. Almost? He confirmed. I smirked. Good. Keep it that way. He asked, you think she realizes she's cornered? Oh, she'll realize the moment she sees her payout. The next day, Jenna emailed final numbers from her estimate spreadsheet. We opened the file like it was treasure. I read aloud, after taxes and fees, Nancy Howard entitled to net proceeds, $104.27. Tyler snorted out his drink. Are you kidding? Not even close, I said, grinning so wide it hurt. We're going to hand her a $100 check and frame the 27 cents as modern art. Outside, rain began tapping the window softly, like a drum roll for karma. I leaned back, whispering, we didn't just want justice, we wanted poetic math. and we just found the perfect equation. Act 5, the setup for revenge. Nancy always underestimated two things: my pettiness and my ability to multitask under pressure. Once we decided to sell the house, I treated it like a secret operation. Not a dramatic movie heist, more like a suburban stealth mission with spreadsheets and scented candles. Step 1, make everything look perfectly ordinary. That meant answering every Nancy text with enthusiasm. Yes, the garden looks great. Oh, I'm repainting soon. New beginnings. She loved that phrase. She thought it meant emotional renewal. It actually meant resale staging. The week after Jenna filed the partition notice, I started packing small things: books, decor, framed pictures. I told Nancy we were reorganizing storage before the summer. She offered to come help. I lied. We'd hate to interrupt your bingo nights. She didn't even play bingo. I just hoped speaking it aloud might manifest her into one. Tyler handled the realtor meetings under the guise of maintenance consultations. Every time someone scheduled a visit, we'd magically have Nancy convinced we were out running errands. My phone password changed that week because apparently secrecy makes me paranoid. During her next surprise visit, Nancy entered like always, without knocking, and froze at the sight of half-packed boxes. "What's going on?" she asked. I smiled smoothly. "Decluttering. Marie Kondo said if it doesn't spark joy, out it goes." Her eyes flicked to the boxes marked documents. She laughed. "Just be careful, dear. You don't want to throw away anything important." "Oh, trust me," I said sweetly. "I've learned what's important." She didn't notice my tone because she was busy checking her reflection in the window. Then she asked if she could move her gardening tools into our shed for convenience. I almost choked from the irony, but managed, "Oh, space is tight right now. We're reorganizing." I labeled another box behind her back, Operation Eviction. Weeks passed, quiet and deceptively civil. Tyler coordinated with Jenna while pretending nothing changed. Nancy occasionally called to ask about our home improvements. I'd reply cheerfully, "Oh, it's all moving along faster than expected," and she'd sigh with dreamy satisfaction, assuming her empire appreciated in value. During one call, she bragged about telling her friends she had a slice of investment property. I muted the phone to laugh until tears came. Tyler whispered, "Stop, she'll hear." I whispered back, "I hope she does." Behind the scenes, the realtor listed the house. Photos went up online one Thursday afternoon. I stared at the link like it was a symbol of freedom. There it was, our living room glowing under soft lights, captioned "Immaculate Starter Home, Move-in Ready." Not pictured, emotional chaos. We restricted showings to weekdays when Nancy worked part-time at her dental office job. Meanwhile, every evening we wiped countertops obsessively and acted normal during her random calls. My nerves hummed constantly. Still, every box sealed felt like a countdown tick in our favor. Tyler said once, "We look suspiciously calm." I answered, "That's because vengeance is basically meditation with paperwork." By the third week, offers flooded in. Apparently, revenge sells as well as good lighting. Jenna updated us through email chains with subjects like partition progress and projected close date. Her tone was deliciously professional compared to the chaos it masked. A few days later, Nancy dropped by again, unannounced as usual. I caught her emerging from her SUV with that assessing look she got when about to critique landscaping. Tyler whispered, "Showtime." She stepped inside. "It smells like fresh paint." I replied brightly, "Yeah." Neutral tones opened the space. Her suspicion flickered. "Why would you repaint when it looked fine before?" I shrugged. Therapeutic creativity. Then I offered cookies to distract her, because sugar buys time. She wandered the living room, unaware that the framed photos had been replaced with generic placeholders, the kind that come with picture frames, all strangers smiling in perfectly staged families. I'd done it intentionally, just for the poetic symbolism. She commented, "Lovely photos. You both look different." "Thank you," I said solemnly. Tyler nearly bit his tongue to hide laughter. After she left, we collapsed onto the couch, giggling like criminals who'd just robbed the decorator aisle. The humor kept us from cracking. because beneath it, anxiety thrummed. We needed the sale finalized before she tried any sabotage. 2 days later, Jenna called. Offer accepted. Closing scheduled for next Thursday. I nearly screamed. Instead, I whispered, "Praise be to market demand." She laughed. I'll handle notice distribution tomorrow morning. Expect an interesting reaction. Define interesting, I said. She'll probably call you. She did. Less than 12 hours later, my phone lit up at 7 a.m. Nancy's voice came shrill through the speaker. You're selling the house? Without consulting me? I pretended confusion. Oh, right. Yes, the market's great right now. Didn't Jenna copy you on the paperwork? You can't just decide that. I didn't decide alone, I said sweetly. Co-owners share decisions. You taught me that. You'll ruin my investment, she snapped. I exhaled dramatically into the phone. Sorry, Nancy, but it's the best move for everyone. You'll get your portion of the proceeds, Jenna said so. My portion? She echoed, voice dripping disbelief. What portion? I smiled to myself. Exactly the one you earned. Click. Call ended abruptly. Tyler clapped like I'd finished a flawless performance. You're terrifying, he said. Finally, some recognition, I answered. After that, every step moved quick. Inspections passed, escrow opened, signatures collected, legally this time. I triple-read every document like a veteran soldier checking ammo. When we met the buyers, a young couple as starry-eyed as we once were, I almost felt maternal. Almost. They admired the new paint, talked about building a future. I wished them luck, and silently added, and parents who respect boundaries. During those last few days, Nancy oscillated between silence and frantic texts. One message read, I never meant harm. We can fix this without lawyers. Another said, I deserve acknowledgement of my contribution. I replied only once. You'll get exactly that in check form. She tried to come over. I claimed to be out of town. She left a voicemail sighing dramatically, I just wanted to talk face to face. I saved it for comedy nights. Packing grew easier once the closing date set. Each sealed box felt lighter, each empty wall cleaner. Tyler and I took turns reciting sarcastic mantras. Thank you, fraudulent refinance, for funding our fresh start. Thank you, Nancy's ego, for motivating free therapy. We might have gone a little delirious, but it was fun delirium. On moving day, sunlight filtered through the empty rooms. I stood in the living room, remembering our first night there. Pizza on boxes, laughter echoing. Then I pictured her signature quietly lurking under legal ink. Bittersweet didn't cover it. Tyler wrapped an arm around me. Ready to hand over the keys? Ready to frame the receipt. Outside, the realtor locked the door for the final time. I slipped the sold sticker onto the yard sign myself. So satisfying. Jenna called right then with final updates. Funds are clearing, she said. Settlement statement goes out tomorrow. Her share will be about $100, give or take processing fees. 100? I asked, grinning. She got about 1% minus expenses. She should have read the fine print. I let out a low whistle. That number's poetry. Tyler overheard and started laughing uncontrollably. We really did it. We did. That night, I sent Nancy one final message. Closing completed today. Expect your proceeds soon. Thank you for your contribution to our educational journey in property law. She replied 5 hours later with 3 words. You'll regret this. I showed Tyler. She's right, I said. I regret not recording her reaction in 4K. We clinked water glasses like champagne. To new beginnings, he said. To downsizing our drama, I added. That was the last night we slept in that house. Half-packed boxes forming fortress walls around us. And when I woke the next morning, it hit me. Nancy wanted a permanent place in our lives, but I'd given her something better, a permanent line and a cautionary tale. Her name might have been on the deed, but the story, this gleeful, petty masterpiece, belonged entirely to me. Act 6, the closing table. The closing was scheduled for a Thursday morning, the kind of day that feels too ordinary for revenge. Tyler and I showed up early, dressed like grown-ups, pretending to know how legal adulthood worked. I even wore a blazer that made me look like I paid my taxes on time. Inside the title office, everything smelled faintly of printer ink and justice. Nancy arrived 15 minutes late, dragging a tote bag stuffed with binders, receipts, and self-righteousness. She smiled as if she were entering a charity gala. "You must be so relieved it's over," she told me, flouncing into a chair across the table. I matched her smile. "Oh, believe me, I am." Jenna sat beside us, perfectly composed, her calm energy radiating professional shark. The title officer began droning through numbers, line by line, monotone like a bedtime story for accountants. Sale price, closing costs, prorated taxes. Each word was another nail politely hammered into Nancy's illusion of wealth. At first, she looked pleased, nodding as if she personally negotiated the market. Then came the deductions, broker commissions, payoff adjustments, county fees. Her brow creased slightly, barely noticeable. When he reached capital gains withholding, she leaned forward. "I'm sorry, what's that?" Jenna answered smoothly, standard tax obligation for co-owners receiving proceeds. "You'll file it next season." Nancy forced a laugh. "Of course, minor detail." The officer continued rattling off fees. Escrow charge, notary, recording fee. I almost wanted popcorn. The tension built sweet and slow, like watching karma pace the room in heels. Tyler squeezed my hand under the table. "You okay?" he whispered. "Better than okay," I murmured. "I'm witnessing art." Finally, the officer flipped the summary page around. And here's the final distribution breakdown. Mr. and Mrs. Howard, $71,000 each. Mrs. Nancy Howard, he paused, checking his math twice, $100.22. Silence lasted a full 5 beats, the exact kind of silence you could cut open with a stapler. Nancy blinked. Then again, "I'm sorry, did you say 100? The officer nodded. $100.22 after proportional deductions. She gave a short, incredulous laugh, like she was waiting for the punchline. "That can't be right. I invested so much time," Jenna interjected gently. "Time is an equity." Nancy turned crimson. "This is your doing," she hissed at me, voice low but sharp enough to slice paper. "You conspired with her." She jabbed a manicured nail at Jenna. "To cheat me." "I prefer the term executed legal process," I said calmly. Tyler stayed silent, probably reciting mental yoga mantras. Nancy's voice rose an octave. "I was only trying to protect family property." "By forging our signatures?" I asked, still smiling. Across the table, Jenna's pen paused. Even she seemed to enjoy the performance. Nancy sputtered. "It wasn't fraud, it was oversight." Said, "She has creative synonyms for crime." The title officer cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "If we could just finalize signatures," Nancy muttered something about injustice while signing, each stroke of her pen angrier than the last. I half expected the ink to smoke. Tyler signed quietly beside me. My own signature felt like drawing a line between freedom and absurdity. When it ended, the officer slid checks across the table. I held Nancy's out to her, pinched delicately between 2 fingers. "Here you go," I said softly. "Your fair share." She stared at the check like it had personally insulted her ancestors. "This is humiliating." "Oh, I'd call it proportionate," I said. Her voice trembled with fury. "You can't treat me like this. I have rights." "You had them," I replied. "Then you sold them for a crisp 100. The officer coughed into his hand, pretending not to exist. Jenna gathered our copies, composed as ever. "Congratulations," she said. "You're officially free of joint ownership." Nancy shot up from her chair. "This isn't over." Jenna raised one eyebrow. "Actually, it is," I added brightly. "But don't worry. You'll get fascinating mail this April when your tax statement arrives." Nancy's jaw clenched. "You're vindictive." "Flattered," I said, sliding my folder shut. "I try my best." She stormed out, her tote bag flapping angrily against her arm. The door didn't quite slam. It just side-closed like it was tired of her too. When she was gone, Tyler exhaled so hard his hair moved. Is it bad that I feel incredible? Not at all, I said. That's justice releasing endorphins. We thanked everyone, shook hands, and stepped outside. The sun hit my face like applause. I didn't realize how heavy the last 6 months had been until that moment. The simple joy of fresh air without legal strings attached. In the parking lot, Tyler burst into laughter out of nowhere. She actually said oversight. I know, I said. That's my new favorite euphemism for felony. We grabbed coffee nearby because apparently triumph requires caffeine. I added cream, stirring slowly, letting the absurdity sink in. Somewhere, Nancy was probably pacing, composing a furious email in all caps, family betrayal or tax fraud against grandmother figure. Tyler read my thoughts. You think she'll try anything? Not unless she enjoys paying her attorney $300 an hour to confirm her stupidity. He toasted his coffee. To poetic math. To poetic math, I echoed. Later that day, Jenna emailed scanned receipts, final statements, everything wrapped neatly in bureaucratic closure. I forwarded one copy to myself with the subject line proof that karma has filing cabinets. Around dinner, Nancy's number lit up again. I put her on speaker. Her tone was icy calm now, the calm of someone trying desperately to sound dignified. I hope you're proud, she began. You made a mockery of family obligations. I said, actually, we restored them to market value. A pause. You think this ends here? Oh, it did. At the closing table. You were there, remember? Same table, tiny check. Tyler snickered audibly. She inhaled sharply. Enjoy your little victory. I will, I replied, and I'll hang it next to the frame with your check copy. Click. She hung up. Silence filled the kitchen. Then Tyler burst out laughing again, full belly laugh this time. You didn't. Oh, I did? I'm framing it under glass. Title Investment Return 2024 edition. He doubled over. You're my hero. For the first time in months, the tension in our house evaporated completely. The walls seemed brighter. Even the floors felt lighter, as if the deed itself had sighed in relief. That night, we opened a cheap bottle of champagne. I poured, watching bubbles rise, thinking of all the times I'd questioned whether this battle was worth it. It was. Every signature, every sleepless night, every sarcastic quip, it all came to this clean full stop. Tyler raised his glass. To never refinancing again. And to reading everything twice, I added. We clinked glasses. Outside, the sky turned pink like karma blushing. When I finally lay down, exhausted, one thought zinged through my brain. Nancy wanted ownership. She ended up paying taxes on Humiliation. I got peace, content for 10 TikToks, and a cautionary line that generations will quote, "Don't pull a Nancy." For the record, she did get her fair share. It just wasn't fair to her. Act 7, The Fallout. The morning after closing, peace felt suspicious. I kept waiting for thunder, or at least a dramatic knock from Nancy armed with emotional monologues. Instead, quiet. Even the neighborhood squirrels seemed calmer, which made me nervous. Tyler joked she'd probably move to a mountain to start a cult called the Disinherited. By noon, theory confirmed. She went public, not spiritual. It started with a Facebook post that read like a tragedy novel. Betrayed by my own children, I sacrificed everything for their future, only to be robbed. The comment section turned into popcorn entertainment. Cousin Beth asked gently, "What happened?" And Nancy replied, "Legal manipulation." They took my house. She added a crying emoji. I almost admired the dramatic restraint, just one. Tyler saw it first. She's subtweeting reality, he groaned. Better than suing, I said. At least emojis are free. Within hours, half the extended family texted him insisting he call your mother. I told him to ignore them. Predictably, ignoring Nancy triggered phase 2, the group chat explosion. The family chat pinged nonstop. Aunt Jo typed in all caps, "I can't believe they did this to you." Uncle Ken asked, "Wait, whose house?" Grandma responded with a completely unrelated recipe for lemon squares. I dropped in a simple message, "All legal. Love you all." Then muted notifications for the rest of eternity. Cue phone call from Nancy, voice trembling with theatrical exhaustion. I just want to know why, dear. Why you'd humiliate me like this. Humiliate you? I repeated calmly. You did that all by yourself. She gasped like she'd found out I'd joined organized crime. After everything I've done, helping you refinance. Helping, I said, usually doesn't involve secret co-ownership forms. Silence, then that fragile tremor in her throat she used as moral armor. I never meant harm. No, you meant profit, I replied evenly. And you got exactly that, $100. Click. End call. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Aunt Jo, your mom's crying. I typed, maybe she can dry her tears with that check. I deleted it before hitting send. Restraint counts as moral growth, right? By evening, word spread through our small town faster than raccoons at a picnic. Even our barista grinned when she handed me my latte. Heard about the deed drama. Iconic. Tyler muttered, apparently we're local legends. Our lawyer Jenna texted a single line. She called my office to ask questions about her tax liability. I recommended TurboTax. I laughed until my stomach hurt. Over the next week, Nancy rotated through all 5 stages of public meltdown. Denial came first, posting pictures of happy family memories captioned "Love conquers all." Then anger, status update. Some people mistake cruelty for maturity. Bargaining followed when she emailed Tyler. Let's start fresh. Maybe you can add me to the next home in a proper way. He almost dropped his phone. Is she serious? He asked. As a tax audit, I said. Depression arrived subtly. She posted an old baby photo of Tyler with a poem about losing sons to greed. I mean, at least it rhymed. Acceptance hasn't shown up yet. Meanwhile, the gossip mill thrived. A neighbor waved from her driveway shouting, saw the Facebook saga. You guys okay? I smiled. Oh, we're thriving. Tyler added, karma's trending. Even the mail seemed to know whose side it was on. A week after closing, an envelope arrived addressed jointly to Nancy and the IRS. I felt zero guilt imagining her opening it with trembling hands. That was the tax bill Jenna had warned about, capital gains on her microscopic payout. I pictured the math. $100 proceeds, potentially $250 worth of tax advisory fees. That's negative profit territory. Delicious. Tyler asked, think she'll actually pay it? Probably not, I said, but explaining it to an accountant will be punishment enough. Days turned into weeks, and gradually the adrenaline faded, replaced by absurd calm. We rented a small temporary apartment while house hunting. The first night there, I woke expecting Nancy's knock at dawn. Instead, just silence and the hum of the fridge. Tyler half joked, it's weird not scheduling visiting hours for my mom. One evening over takeout, he scrolled through messages and snorted. She just posted a meme that says, kindness is mistaken for weakness. Should we comment a calculator emoji? Tempting, but we let karma handle PR. What amused me most was how people switched sides once they heard the full story. Jenna had predicted it. Nothing silences gossip like documented fraud. Word leaked that Nancy's investment involved forged signatures. Suddenly, relatives who'd cried injustice were sliding into our DMs whispering apologies. Even Aunt Jo sent a meme of a burning contract captioned "Lesson Learned." I almost framed that one too. But my favorite moment arrived courtesy of family group chat again. Cousin Ben, bless his chaotic neutrality, dropped a link to an article titled "Legal Consequences of Adding Your Name to Someone's Deed Without Permission." No caption, no context. Just vibes. The typing indicator blinked. Nancy left the group. I texted Tyler, achievement unlocked, family peace DLC. He replied, unlock bonus level therapy. Truthfully, the comedy of it all masked exhaustion. Fraud wears you out, even the victorious kind. I caught myself double-checking every document from our new realtor as if Nancy Ghost wrote contracts from beyond the deed. Tyler teased me once, honey, it's a lease, not a hex. Still, I couldn't deny the satisfaction. The story spread beyond family. Coworkers brought popcorn energy. One colleague whispered, you're basically a true crime podcast waiting to happen. I shrugged. I prefer comedy special. Then came her forgiveness email. Subject line, extending grace. 2 paragraphs of passive-aggressive poetry. Though you have wounded me deeply, I release you from the guilt of your betrayal. I wish you success in your new endeavors, but hope you recognize the value of family before it's too late. Translation. She's still furious. I replied with a single line, "Thank you for your closure. The IRS will contact you soon." Tyler read over my shoulder and nearly spit his drink. "You're ruthless." "I learned from the best," I said. Weeks later, gossip cooled. Nancy went quiet, maybe realizing attention feeds justice like fuel feeds fire. Occasionally, I'd see her at the grocery store, pretending intense focus on avocados. Once our carts met accidentally at the checkout lane. Her smile was thin plastic. "Hello, dear," she said stiffly. "Ah, co-owner emeritus," I replied. Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing, paid cash, and fled before I could mention tax season. I watched her go, oddly at peace. It wasn't triumph, it was tidy conclusion. At home that night, I told Tyler, "You know, there's a weird serenity in knowing her greed built her own punishment." He nodded thoughtfully. "Do you think she gets it now?" "Maybe. Or maybe she's planning a tell-all blog called Mother-in-Law Misunderstood." He laughed. "Can I write the foreword?" Title: Her Son Defends Nothing. We toasted microwaved leftovers because nothing says victory like cold noodles and laughter unbothered by drama. I finally admitted aloud, part of me wanted to yell, make her confess. Instead, paper did the yelling. Tyler smiled. Paper yells loud when notarized. In the months that followed, a few distant relatives reached out asking for the real story. I just send them the county property record. Facts trump gossip every time. Slowly, Nancy stopped attending family gatherings. Birthday parties became peaceful again. Christmas came and went without unsolicited decor advice. A miracle. Every so often, I'd glance at the framed check now hanging in our hallway and grin. Visitors assumed it was modern art. In a way, it was a minimalist piece titled "Greed Costs Extra." The moral hit me quietly one night while brushing my teeth. Trust is priceless, signatures are not. Always read the fine print, especially when it's handwritten in family penmanship. Still, I couldn't resist sharing one final update online. My caption: sold one house, gained one legend, family equity %, personal satisfaction 100. I attached a photo of that framed check with a wink emoji. 10 minutes later, cousin Ben texted, "You on the internet?" I replied, "Just balancing the emotional budget." Tyler laughed from across the room. "You're impossible." "Correction," I said, "I'm free." Nancy never commented, but she didn't need to. Her silence was the loudest applause I'd ever heard. And every time I walked past that $100 relic, I remember she wanted ownership. She got notoriety instead. Act 8, the aftermath at home. Moving into the new place felt like slipping into clean sheets after months of mud, wrestling with bureaucracy. It wasn't fancy, smaller kitchen, tighter hallway, but the walls didn't hum with past arguments, and that alone made it priceless. Tyler carried the last box inside and declared, officially no more paperwork signed under supervision of relatives. I clapped like he'd just passed rehab for trust issues. The first few days were blissfully ordinary. We built furniture without unsolicited critiques, ate dinner without guilt, and discovered silence is its own kind of luxury. One evening, while screwing together a bookshelf, Tyler said, "You realize this is the first screw Mom hasn't tried to tighten for me." I snorted so hard the screwdriver slipped. "Careful," I said. "You'll summon her like Beetlejuice." We joked, but the ghost of her interference lingered. Any envelope on the doormat made my pulse quicken. We turned mail checking into a two-person ritual. He opened. I hovered beside him, flashlight ready like a forensic inspector. When an advertisement from a mortgage company arrived with the word refinance in bold, I threw it straight into the freezer. Don't ask why. It just felt symbolic. A week later, surrounded by unpacked boxes and cardboard chaos, Tyler whispered, "You think she'll come by?" I looked around our fortress of moving supplies. If she tries one bubble wrap pop and I'm calling the cops. Slowly, fear gave way to humor again. I started narrating domestic life like a documentary about species recovering from natural disaster. Here we see the traumatized homeowners learning to trust documents again. Notice the tentative approach to delivery menus. Even signing for a pizza made me anxious. The delivery guy handed me a receipt. My hand hesitated midair. "Would you mind reading the fine print aloud?" He blinked. It's just the tip line, ma'am." I nodded. That's what they all say. Tyler laughed so hard he tipped extra. Friends came over bearing wine and schadenfreude. "Tell us everything," Lena begged, kicking off her shoes. I relayed every twist, the fake refinance, the revenge sale, the $100 payout. With every beat, the group gasped, laughed, or shouted commentary like it was live theater. Someone asked what we did with her check. I pointed dramatically to the frame above the TV where that crisp relic hung beneath the label housewarming gift from Karma. Instant crowd pleaser. Lena lifted her glass. "To you, saint of petty justice." I raised mine. Another friend asked, "Any regrets?" I thought about it, then said, "Just one. I wish I'd recorded her face." Everyone clinked glasses. Despite the laughter, quiet moments still hit hard. Once, while unpacking utensils, I found an old note from Nancy tucked inside a kitchen towel. "Remember," it read, "organization is the heart of a happy home." I laughed until my eyes watered. Tyler found me sitting on the floor, waving the note like a flag. "What now?" he asked. "Just discovering ancient inscriptions from the former regime," I said. Nights were calmer now. We cooked badly, spilled wine on unpacked carpets, argued over where to hang pictures. It all felt gloriously mundane. One rainy evening, Tyler looked up from his laptop and said, "You realize we're boring again?" I smiled. That's the goal. But boredom had a silver lining. It let gratitude seep back in. We talked about vacations, weekend hikes, maybe even adopting a dog. As long as the adoption papers don't have her witness signature, I said. He groaned. Never again. Sometimes we'd pass the framed check and grin. It became shorthand for victory. When work stressed me out, he'd nod toward it. "Remember, you outlawyered my mom." Instant mood boost. A few weeks in, friends kept bringing up the story at gatherings. "You've got to post it on that Am I Wrong subreddit," someone urged. I shrugged. Maybe later. I'm living the sequel. Yet sharing it felt therapeutic. People who'd suffered their own boundary. Bulldozing relatives messaged me saying, "Thank you. Now I have hope." One woman wrote, "You turned my trauma into comedy gold." I teared up reading that. Who knew bureaucratic revenge could be community service? Still, every positive comment dragged a pinch of disbelief. How close we came to losing everything because trust wore mom's perfume. That realization quietly rewired something in me. Now, I measure generosity by transparency, not by family titles. Tyler once joked, "I'm jealous. You talk more to the notary than you ever did to me." I shot back, "The notary never forged my signature." There were tender moments too. One evening, he found me staring at the check frame, distant. "Penny for your thoughts?" he said. I shrugged. "Just thinking how peace sounds loud when you've had none." He kissed my forehead. We earned it. We turned lessons into inside jokes. When neighbors asked for small favors, we'd whisper, "Get it in writing." Signing Christmas cards? Read twice before sealing. Even the dog adoption form had us triple-checking details until the shelter worker sighed, "Don't worry, it only gives us permission to feed him." Tyler deadpanned, that's what they all say. Months passed, and our new routine settled in like a bomb. Weekend mornings meant pancakes instead of court paperwork. The only legal jargon around was me yelling "clause" during board games. Tyler eventually stopped having stress dreams about deeds. Mine downgraded to harmless nightmares where Nancy critiqued my curtains from outside the window. Progress. Then came the moment that cemented her story as family legend. During a small dinner with relatives who'd chosen our side, Uncle Ken lifted his fork and asked, chuckling, "So how does it feel to bankrupt your in-laws?" I grinned. Educational. Aunt Jo raised an eyebrow. "What did she end up with again?" Tyler answered proudly, $100 in a tax form. Laughter erupted. Even Uncle Ken nearly snorted wine. That was the night I realized humiliation heavyweights fall to humor faster than hatred ever could. After guests left, Tyler and I stood at the doorway, soaking in the quiet. Outside, wind. Rustled trees. Inside, our walls felt solid, untouched by deceit. He said softly, "We're free." I nodded. And rich in stories. Later, I lit a candle and stared at that infamous framed check, the print barely visible, but its meaning blazing. I whispered to it, "Thanks for the lesson." Tyler overheard. Talking to money now? To closure, I corrected. Life for once was simple. Rent, groceries, peace. No audits, no surprise ownerships, no unsolicited advice disguised as help. I'd learned that joy isn't in possession, but in the ability to close a door, breathe, and know every inch of the place truly belongs to you. Every morning, coffee in hand, I glance at that check and smile. It's a daily reminder that greed backfires, trust requires receipts, and sometimes justice doesn't roar. It giggles. And whenever mail lands with that official envelope look, I pat the frame gently and say, "Not today, Nancy." Because now, her name might have vanished from our deed, but her cautionary tale? That's etched in the walls of every new house we'll ever live in. Whispered between laughter and freedom that tastes sweeter than revenge ever did. Act 9, the MIL's humiliation goes public. Nancy's humiliation didn't end with the check. It aged like unpasteurized milk on a summer porch. A week after closing, her first attempt at narrative control appeared on Facebook. The post began dramatically. Beware trusting those closest to you. Betrayal hides behind polite smiles. No names, but every family member within 3 states understood the subtext. She even added a photo of herself clutching a teacup, captioned, "Still standing." Tyler read it aloud between bites of cereal. "She gave herself a movie trailer," he muttered. By noon, the post had 50 comments. Cousin Beth wrote, "Hang in there, Aunt Nancy." Aunt Joe dropped 4 crying face emojis. I couldn't resist. I replied, sending thoughts, prayers, and calculators. Tyler nearly spit milk. Minutes later, my comment disappeared. Blocked. Tragic. It got funnier the next day when a cousin DM'd screenshots of Nancy's group messages. In one, she'd announced, "I was tricked into signing away property." Then, the family's resident realist typed, "Didn't you add your name? Kinda the opposite." She left that chat too. Legend. Soon the story sprouted wings. A distant relative posted in a private neighborhood group, "Family disputes over homes are heartbreaking. Anyone else experienced signature betrayal?" Locals connected dots faster than detectives. I went to the farmer's market and overheard 2 women gossiping. "Did you hear about that mother who stole her kid's house and ended up owing taxes?" "No? What podcast is that from?" "Real life. Right here." One pointed at me without realizing who I was. I winked and said, "Season finale next week." They gasped, then bought extra strawberries out of fascination guilt. The real viral explosion happened when Ben, chaotic neutral as ever, shared a meme on social media. Picture of Monopoly's "Do Not Pass Go" card captioned, "When you add yourself to your kid's deed and they sell the house." Tens of thousands of shares later, Nancy's humiliation had its own subgenre. People speculated wildly. One commenter wrote, "Legend says she still carries that $100 check close to her heart." I almost felt bad. Almost. Nancy's response? A carefully crafted, official statement through private messages. "I only ever wanted to protect generational wealth," she wrote. Which sounded noble until Tyler replied by forging it. Screenshots of that reply inevitably circulated. Cousin Cindy texted me, crying. Laughing emojis. "Your husband just ended Thanksgiving single-handedly." Meanwhile, family group chats turned passive-aggressive. Aunt Joe suggested a family mediation brunch. Uncle Ken, who hadn't spoken in years, responded, "Only if there's pie and notarized invites." Grandma added, "Bring lemon squares." The humor diffused tension everywhere but Nancy's pride. A week after the meme blew up, an unfamiliar email landed in my inbox titled "Cease and Desist, Informal." It was from Nancy herself, drafted in Comic Sans. "You are spreading private matters publicly," it warned, "and I may pursue legal recourse." I read it twice, then replied, "You started the franchise. We just own distribution rights." No answer since. Offline life mirrored the circus. At the grocery store, a cashier whispered, "You're the deed lady, right?" I nodded proudly. Free coffee coupons appeared at my local shop with handwritten notes. "We stan a petty queen." Tyler sighed. "You've become a folk hero." Finally, I said, recognition for my paperwork skills. Even professional life joined in. At work, my boss leaned into my office and said, "HR heard about your situation. We'd like you to run the next training on fraud awareness." Promotion-worthy irony? I titled my presentation, "Trust But Verified, the Family Edition." Behind the laughter, Nancy was unraveling. Relatives forwarded snippets of Bannon. Her attempts to regain sympathy, long posts about misunderstood intentions. Each read like budget self-help. Sometimes mothers love too much. Comments dwindled quickly, folks realizing loving too much shouldn't involve falsifying deeds. One brave friend of hers commented, "Maybe boundaries next time?" She replied, "Love has no boundaries." I murmured at my phone, "Neither does fraud, apparently." The masterpiece moment came during Cousin Lily's wedding. Tyler and I hesitated to attend, expecting tension. Halfway through the reception, Aunt Jo cornered us, whispering, "She's here." We turned, the crowd parted like drama, recognizing its cue. Nancy stood near the buffet wearing pastel armor and pearls of denial. She approached cautiously, smile stretched tight. "Hello, dears." "Hello, former co-owner," I said brightly. Gasps rippled through nearby relatives. She hissed, "Not appropriate." "Neither was adding yourself to our deed," I said. "I'm just keeping themes consistent." She flushed crimson, muttered about respecting occasions, then retreated towards safer appetizer trays. For the rest of the night, she avoided eye contact, like eye contact incurred taxes. Honestly, that moment erased 6 months of stress therapy. Later, outside under string lights, cousins clustered around us, begging the full recap. Tyler retold it with comedic rhythm, and every punchline earned laughter. Lily herself cheered. Best wedding entertainment ever. Someone opened champagne for Justice toasts. Even the band half applauded. Across the lawn, Nancy glared like a dethroned monarch exiled among peasants. That night, Tyler and I left early, grinning. He said, "Do you think this counts as closure?" "I think this counts as a documentary," I replied. "We just need narration." A few days later, Ben posted a final meme. Nancy's old Facebook teacup photo edited with text. Still standing, but with less equity. Mic drop. She deactivated her account within 24 hours. Instant quiet across every chat, like the internet exhaled relief. Offline, her reputation changed from helpful matriarch to walking cautionary tale. People whispered versions at book clubs, gyms, beauty salons. DontPullANancy became shorthand for overstepping. Even church sermons used it allegorically. Adding your name to God's work without permission brings problems. The irony was biblical. As for us, we leaned in. On TikTok, Tyler accidentally went semi-viral telling the story during a live Q&A. Comments overflowed with admiration and petty joy. Someone wrote, "I need her framed check as merch. I considered printing replicas reading official share $100. Christmas gift potential." One day a reporter from a small local radio station called, "We're doing a segment on unusual real estate disputes. Would you talk anonymously?" I said sure, as long as they labeled it Sitcom Justice, Episode 1. Hearing an actor narrate my story weeks later felt surreal. The line "her mother-in-law got $100 and a lifetime supply of regret" still makes me cackle. Nancy, meanwhile, maintained silence except for one accidental outing. A friend of hers posted a photo of them having coffee with the caption, "Great catch-up with this amazing woman who's been through so much." The comments, of course, turned chaotic. "Wait, are you the deed lady?" 15 responses later, the post vanished. By month 3 post-closing, the dust fully settled. Our story had officially migrated from family scandal to social comedy. Even Grandma, blissfully unbothered, started referring to it as the Great Deed Debacle. During dinner one Sunday, she asked if the check was still framed. I nodded. She patted my hand and said, "Good girl. Keeps the devil humble." Back home that evening, Tyler read aloud messages from strangers thanking us for empowering petty justice. We laughed until tears came. Then he said softly, "Crazy how our plan backfired this perfectly." "Not crazy," I said. "Just poetic." He smiled, touching the framed relic on the wall. "She wanted legacy." "She got legend," I replied. So that's where her story lives now, stitched into memes, whispered at brunches, and retold in every group chat labeled Drama Alert. The woman who tried to steal a house ended up donating the internet a catchphrase and a cautionary tale. Greed isn't inheritance, it's self-taxation. Every time someone says, "Don't pull a Nancy," a petty angel gets its wings. And honestly, I grin every time. It means our chaos served a purpose and a punchline. And sometimes, late at night, I picture her opening that drawer where she keeps sentimental junk, seeing that $100 check stub and realizing it's worth more as a warning than as cash. That's the real wealth transfer, the transformation of arrogance into anecdote. She wanted control. she became content. She went over to ownership, she became a punchline, and honestly, I couldn't have written a happier ending myself. The clean break. The story ends quietly, no courtroom bang, no. Grand apology, just peace so deep it hums. 6 months since the sale, our lives finally moved at human speed again. No legal letters, no suspicious envelopes, just mornings where the loudest sound was the coffee machine. I'd look around our smaller, cozier home and think, we traded square footage for freedom, and I'd make that deal every time. Tyler called it our sanity mortgage. Every day we paid in gratitude instead of dollars. He teased, interest rates emotional growth, though. Not wrong. We talked more, worried less, learned to spot red flags, even the ones wearing family sweaters. Trust didn't vanish, it just grew picky about signatures. Sometimes, curiosity nudged me to check county records, confirming her name no longer haunted our deed. She remained in archives only as a cautionary punchline. That invisible weight gone from our address felt like unclenching a fist I didn't know I'd been holding. Friends still beg for retellings. Over dinners, after a glass of wine, someone always says, tell the house story. I've perfected the rhythm, start with sarcasm, build suspense, end with the reveal of the $100 check. Every gasp and laugh reminds me that humor disinfects betrayal better than revenge ever could. Tyler listens, eyes full of mischief, chiming in with his favorite line. It wasn't revenge, it was accounting. Our new neighbors know nothing about the drama. To them, we're just that couple with too many houseplants. I like it that way. But inside, our walls hold echoes of an unforgettable lesson. That piece isn't handed over with deeds, it's signed in boundaries. One lazy Sunday, I finally hung the framed copy of Nancy's check above the kitchen counter. Front and center, a conversation starter disguised as minimalist art. The frame label reads, Return on Emotional Investment. Every time I wipe counters beneath it, I smile. 100 crisp dollars bought silence, sanity, and storytelling rights forever. Tyler jokes we should insure the frame. It's our most valuable asset now, he says. I answer, exactly, the only one that appreciates in laughter. We never heard much from Nancy again beyond the occasional forwarded chain email preaching forgiveness. No visits, no guilt texts, just quiet. Her silence turned out to be the best apology she'd never deliver. In that absence, everything finally belonged to us. The laughter, the arguments about takeout, even the ridiculous dog begging under the table. Sometimes at night, when the house settles and the fridge hums, I whisper to the walls, ours, completely ours. It's silly, but after losing that word once, I guard it like treasure. If you're listening to this and recognizing your own overstepping relative, here's the takeaway tattooed on my common sense. Trust, but notarize. Check the fine print, even when it wears a hug. And if someone tries to steal what's yours, remember, karma has closing costs, and they're usually due up front. The final image I want you to hold is simple. Me, coffee in one hand, check frame, catching morning light, peace stretching quiet and endless. That's my closure, my clean break, my reward for surviving paperwork warfare. And if you've ever outpettied a problem relative or dreamt of reclaiming your calm, subscribe for more tales like this one. Drop your own family drama victory in the comments. I promise, next time we'll trade sarcasm strategies. Because in the end, Nancy added her name to my house, but I wrote the last line, and the internet wrote the